Welcome to the Vault podcast and reviews, where music still matters. You can check out all our shows at YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Podomatic. Please rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Also, make sure to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you like what we're doing and you'd like to contribute to help us keep the show going, check out patreon.com/thevault. Northlane 2015 release, 11 tracks, peaked at 195 on the Billboard 200, which doesn't sound very good at the surface, but it's actually a better album than that. Believe it or not, it was number one on the Australian album charts. Did you guys know that?
I did know that, actually.
I did not know that.
Oh, I was going to say I knew Robbie knew
that. I did not know that.
So this was a request of sorts from Jessman. Jessman, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Yeah. I'm a relatively new convert to Northlane. I work with a fella who's become really my best friend of the current time and just a musical brother to me, and his name's Anthony, and I wanted to shout him out specifically because he turned me on to Northlane, and specifically through this album. I mean, and he came into it just, hard, saying this is the best album of 2015 was what he told me whenever he introduced it to me. So coming into it, of course, I had expectations. But I must say that while I enjoy a lot of heavy music, I really enjoy progressive music in really all facets, and that's spanning the gamut from, looking at, Rush and Yes through Dream Theater and everything in between. So what this album, one of the quotes that I saw that I loved about it was described as, this was from Sputnik Music, as spacey, semi-progressive metalcore, and that was very interesting to me. And something I wanted to ask you guys about, just in regard to that, is would you consider this a metalcore album, really, or would you consider this more the djent or just a general progressive metal as far as from a genre perspective?
I think it's exactly what it was described as. I mean, I don't know that you could describe it any better. It is djent, it's progressive, it's metalcore, a little bit of everything. Good cop, bad cop vocals.
Right.
Yep. That's a good way to put that.
You can't describe it any better than what you said it was described dead on.
Okay. Had either of you listened to Northlane previous to this album, or did you listen to either of their previous albums after listening to Node?
No, I did not, only because we had so many other reviews to do. But definitely a band that I would want to hear more from.
Well, it's interesting because everything else you hear from them before Node is with their original lead singer, and his name was Adrian, and his last name is escaping me. But Marcus Bridge, this was his first album that he actually recorded with Northlane, replacing Adrian. And what you get from the Adrian-led vocal Northlane, in my eyes, and I had a really good talk about it with Anthony at work today, was just, it's much more a pure metalcore band with that other lead singer. He did not have the melodic capacity that Marcus Bridge has. He had some great screams as far as low lows, great mids, fantastic highs, but no real singing. And I feel that with this album in particular, it's an entirely different side of this band that's been brought out. And these kids are all young. I mean, whenever I say young, I think they're all in their, I think the eldest is in their mid to maybe late 20s. So, they're young. And so looking at that, I think it's insane what a new singer could bring to a mix, and how complex that can actually do as far as adding that element of complexity to your band as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just one lead singer, right? He does all the vocals, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, right?
Yes.
American guy. He's definitely an impressive vocalist as far as that goes. I mean, he does a good change from like I always call him like cheesy, poppy kind of vocals, like to the more brutal sounding stuff. And I love that transition, like A Day to Remember does that very well too. But no, this guy's an incredible vocalist, and the rest of the band is real good as well. I'd never heard him before, so
I never heard him before either. But I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. I can't stand the transitions. Like I'm so tired of them. It's like there's so many bands that do this now, and that's why I said the good cop bad cop vocals, the clean versus the harsh. When I first heard that, I think was From Autumn to Ashes in like 2002.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like that was super cool then because I had never heard anything like it. But since then, there's like so many metalcore bands that are doing this. And for this album, I was like gleaming when he was singing, and then they would go into like the generic scream, which wasn't bad, and I was just kind of like, a little let down at that point. I wanted him to actually keep singing, not screaming.
Right.
And I think that's just because I generally like music that just sounds different than anything else. That's just what I like to hear. I'm not trying to be like Joe Cool or anything, trying to be different. It's just what I like, you know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this on that kind of subject, I guess, if I could just pick your brain on that. Would you agree that metalcore as a genre has become incredibly stale?
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Okay. So follow me with this. So if we in general agree that metalcore has become stale, to obviously pull in and this is a theory, so perhaps this is nothing even rooted in reality. To pull in that particular audience, you do have to have some of those perhaps cliche elements to pull the people in who are looking for that experience. But do you feel that they stay there long enough to have that same stale stench on them that the rest of metalcore has, or do you think they depart from that fast enough, so much that they just kind of touch it, but then they take a left turn and take you elsewhere, or were you not that surprised by what they did?
Like this album specifically?
Yeah, like whenever you were saying, whenever they kind of ducked into those moments that you were disappointed because it felt cliche, do you feel like they stayed there too long, or do you think they jumped back out of it and departed and gave you something a little bit different?
It's just both, really. It's a good mix of everything. I mean, I can see where they're going to draw in metalcore fans, and I can see how, like, you and myself are progressive fans that are going to draw them in, or the new gent thing that I say new, it's newer.
Right.
You're going to draw those people in. I mean, it's going to draw a lot of people in and just expose them to different styles, but, we all have our kind of personal preferences. I mean, I could listen to crazy, whacked-out, 18-minute-long prog rock stuff any day, and there's twists and turns, and you never know what's coming next, and that's just what I like to hear for the most part. And I've heard so much metalcore that, like you said, it does get stale, and I'm just kind of like, all right, next, But overall, it's just a good mix, really, of everything it was described as when we kicked off the show. So.
Something that I do want to, if I can, just jump in real quick, because I pay very close attention to lyrics, and whenever I'm looking at and in a sense, judging what I'm listening to, I'm taking in that entire picture. And something that I do want to say that I feel that Northlane does depart from traditional metalcore is the subject material that about which they are speaking. And this was another conversation I had with my buddy on this very topic, and I loved the way that he put it. One of the bands that he brought up was Dead to Fall, and they've got a song called Chum Fiesta, which is about a shark attack, and the music video, they're like playing on the sand, and there's this inflatable shark, and they're wrestling around with this, and there's blood everywhere. But the content of that song, it's literally just about a shark attack, and you're going to be eaten by the shark, and and you're all just chum, and they're chanting Chum Fiesta. This this album by Northlane, while both may be considered metalcore, is very different in its lyrical content, and that's something that I think deserves some recognition in perhaps setting it apart from albums that may have the same genre title, just because this whole album is about people taking action, of a revolution of the people. I mean, one of the quotes from Rot, a mind at large is a power they can't repress. My goodness, that is some powerful stuff. And it's not very often that lyrics like that are so transcendent and really seem to be created to inspire some kind of social change. And that's something that I really respect in this day and age, as well as a band that's not only making just completely just sick killer music from an instrumental standpoint, but the words behind them mean something and are there to inspire people to do something.
Robbie, jump in. I feel like we've just kind of pushed you aside.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know. This is kind of out of my style a little bit as far as what I normally listen.
Speak up then.
I mean, I could say what I did like about it. And you guys are all being super intricate and breaking it down. I mean, what I really enjoyed most about this album was, like the transition from singing to the screaming. I really enjoy that good cop, bad cop vocal, as you put it. Yep. So I enjoyed that part of it, and their breakdowns on this album were super solid. Great, just badass riffs. I mean, they drive you, they make you want to rock out, and then they have their more chill songs as well. One song that stood out as far as that goes was Soma. It's cool. It's kind of slow, driving guitar riffs.
Yeah.
He was real brutal on the vocals, but the good cop, bad cop thing, he kind of switched it back and forth, so I really like that. But as far as really breaking it down, I mean, this is a little bit out of my realm as far as what I would normally listen to and be able to break down, a little further.
Well, good. That's what we like to do here. So.
Right.
Jessamine, you got any negatives? Because I mean, I've kind of touched on a lot of mine. So.
I guess if I had a negative, it would be that if I'm, and this may be my own ear, if I'm not listening for specific words, a lot of times in this style of music, I will miss the message behind it. And so I'm one that I'll look those things up and read along as I'm listening, and I think that the message may be missed because someone may be rocking so hard. And while that's not necessarily it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's one of those things where I always wish that everyone would catch that. And if and at the risk of sounding like a grandpa, because I love screaming. That's the thing. But I'm just like, if they could hear all the words, maybe they'd understand what it was about. But there's part of me that has that kind of thought to it, as if they just heard all the words, maybe they would not think it was just so crazy, because it's right. I mean, it's beautiful music with a fantastic message. I want it to be accessible to everybody.
That's your negative?
So maybe I should just be an elitist and be like, well, if you don't get it, then that's your own thing.
Yeah, right?
Hey, I guess you just figured out my problem with never listening to lyrics, because I'm just rocking out too hard.
There we go.
There you go. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. As far as negatives for me, I mean, I really just don't get down too much with like like I said, I call it poppy or cheesy singing. That's probably like not a very good description of his singing parts in this album, but I want more of the screaming, more of the hard side of it. Personally, that's what I look for in these types of bands. So this album had a couple of good songs on I really liked, like Leech was really awesome. Soma was really good. And of course there was a few more of those were just my favorites, but overall wasn't one of my favorites. Just like I said, it wasn't quite when I first heard it, I wanted more of the heavy stuff, more of the heavy side of it, but that's just me.
I think those are all understandable points, and I already made most of mine. So let's jump into the rating, unless you guys got anything else. 1 star being the worst, 5 stars being the best. Jessamine, you're up first.
I love this album. It's a new album. It's a genre in which I'm I'm fairly familiar and I've always enjoyed, but I've been getting more into recently. So, and just from top to bottom, as far as what I loved about it, I had the songs that I loved, and I had songs that were okay, and I had other songs that I skip over whenever I listen to it. And while I love the whole thing, own it on vinyl. 3.25 is what I'm going to give this guy.
I was expecting you to throw a high number at it. That's not too bad though. 3.25.
I think it is fair
That's
as far
deserving.
as for
That is very fair.
what I love about it, and what I wish was perhaps a bit more accessible about it, and just the frequency of which I'm gonna jam it.
Well, yeah, that makes me feel a lot better about my score. I gave this album a 2.5 because I didn't hate it. It wasn't a horrible album from beginning to end, but it's not something that I would probably seek out to listen to over and over. There are other bands in this type of genre that I would pick, but maybe that's just me. But like I said, I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
I'm going to give it the highest rating of any of you guys. This is kind of surprising, actually. All right, so let me just break it down before I actually give you any ratings. I absolutely love the spacey, progressive elements in this. There just needs to be more. The gent style is okay. However, it's not reinventing the wheel. We've heard bands sound like this before, just not with so much of the spacey prog stuff. I absolutely love the clean vocals. I wish the whole album had more clean vocals. I get tired of the screaming, and it's not because I'm older. It's just that sound is growing on me. Certain bands can pull it off, like some death metal. Like I don't want Cannibal Corpse singing, but
right.
With these guys it could be different. Everything is really good, but there's only a handful of songs that stand out. Probably like 3 songs to me. Node, Ohm, Nameless. I really like those. Good cop, bad cop vocals get old. I already said I wish it was more spacier and more experimental even, but I'm going to give it a little bit of higher rating simply off potential, because if this band could keep doing this but add more elements, take away some elements, a little bit more like Mastodon or Opeth, they kind of started off in a heavier death metal or heavier metal style and then moved off into just really, really spacey progressive stuff. In my opinion, if you're going to be progressive, you got to go all the way. So
yes.
For that, I'm giving it 3.75. So
yeah, that's a whole lot of fractions to do. What we average?
So our average rating was just under 3.25. So
that's not bad at all. That's fair for this album, I'd say.
All right, thanks for checking out the review. Don't forget to check us out on social media: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please, please, please subscribe: YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Podomatic. And if you'd like to contribute monetarily, we've got some cool stuff to give away. You can check us out: patreon.com/thevault. Until the next review, podcast, interview, or other nonsense, see you later.